Hello, everybody. We are back once again in your ears with more classics in more conversation. We are joined today by a fantastic guest who we're very excited to talk to. We have Markus. How are you, Markus?
Oh, I'm great, Georgie. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I'm not too bad. How are you, Heather?
I'm all right.
All right, yeah.
I'm all right.
Keeping on.
I suspect that I'm actually a little bit sunburnt from sitting in the garden today. I just noticed that I've got pink cheeks, so
I love that.
It's not just the hair that's glowing.
It's matching.
Also, my nose as well. I just noticed. So yeah. Other than that,
it's like a blush.
It's like a blush.
Yeah.
Perils of being like a pasty fish.
It's a mood. It's a whole mood. So today, I will do everything I can to curb my enthusiasm and rage that we are talking about a very popular film, the Stanley Kubrick 1980 The Shining.
Yes. I'm excited
it's
to see you get like more and more full of rage.
It's going to happen. Prepare yourselves, listeners. So before we get on to that, what did everybody else think of the film? It's a classic. It's why it's here, you know? So what do you think of The Shining?
Well, I would say that is a great movie with a real creepy atmosphere and some iconic moments.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I think it's one of those that like we couldn't have not spoken about it. I definitely will say it's not in my top 10. It's probably not in my top 50. But I think that personally for me, like it's kind of one of those you had to be there kind of films. Like it undoubtedly has earned its place in lists like these, and some of the lines and some of the scenes that were so iconic. But I definitely think on reflection, like there are quite a few parts that let it down a little bit. And I'm sure Georgie's going to tell us all about those. But yeah, like I think I am apathetic. It's probably the best way to put it.
That's good. Apathetic's valid. I think Markus very succinctly put the two big things about The Shining. The atmosphere is incredible. I think the way that the atmosphere is kind of created in that film as a film, very well done. And again, some of the most iconic moments, like not just in horror movies, but in cinema, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
absolutely. But I still don't like it. And I still think it's too long and it butchered the book, and we will get into it. I think it's massively overrated, if I'm honest.
Oh,
I'm going to get so much shit for this, I bet. I know.
This is a controversial episode today.
It is, I think. I think it's the one that's elicited the strongest negative reaction out of me, out of everything we've covered, which is weird because I think it's the one that would most likely be universally preferred by a lot of people, I would argue.
Yeah, I think so. Now, you mentioned it very briefly, so I am going to ask, what are your thoughts on its adaptation from book to film? Have you guys both read the book?
Nope.
No, I must admit I haven't either. So
I've barely read any Stephen King.
I have to admit, like I'm the same. Like I've read it. I've read Pet Sematary because like I love me a Wendigo, even if it's like only a tiny one in the background. But that's kind of it for my whole Stephen King knowledge. Not knowledge, but like having read.
Yeah.
I've only read the Dark Tower books, so that's as far as my knowledge goes.
I'm a bit of a Stephen King fan. So that top shelf's all Stephen King.
Nice.
And it's not all of them. I have another shelf of them at home. I'm a very big Stephen King fan.
So which is your absolute favourite? Which is the one that you would give to someone who hasn't read any to say, this for me is the one that you should read for Stephen King's best?
that is a different question to which my favourite is.
That's
so
okay. We can have two answers.
Yeah, okay. I think the one that I would give to somebody.
This episode has become Georgie on Stephen King.
Literally, right? I think the one that I would give to somebody would be. I think The Shining might be up there, to be honest. Maybe Misery.
Oh, yeah.
Great book. Again, really, really good film, but the end in the book is better than the film. But my favourite...
I definitely would say Misery is the kind of film that could never be remade.
Yeah. Oh,
for me, that casting...
Kathy Bates
is absolutely, incredible. And to remake it would be a crime.
Well, we will come on to casting.
Oh, we will.
But my favourite Stephen King book is Needful Things.
Oh, okay.
It's my dad's favourite one as well.
Oh, yes.
It's great. Yeah. It's, if anyone hasn't read it, because it's not one of his big famous ones. They made a really shit film as well about it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that's not good. Unlike Stand By Me. Oh god, that's so good. They're all so good. Needful Things is about a shop. You go in and you buy whatever you want, but there's a price.
Oh,
it's very kind of cursed object, monkey paw type thing. It's good. I really like it.
Not just 20 quid because it's a shop.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, that was what I would say. But adaptation wise,
I
can post it to you.
Oh, that'd be so good. We'll do a little book exchange.
Yeah, but I think adaptation wise, Stephen King has a very, very varied list of book to movie adaptations. Some of them are
huge. Some of them be one of the most adapted novelists out there easily, right?
Yeah, I would argue, and some of them are fantastic. Some of them are cinematic masterpieces. Some of them are not. Some of them simply aren't. And I think The Shining in particular, it's one that at the time was very kind of lukewarm reception. But even Stephen King was not a fan, wasn't a fan. But as with a lot of stuff that Kubrick does, it gets better and more appreciated with age, I think. And people now feel a lot more positively toward it than they did when it came out.
Okay.
I would argue.
So, slightly away from The Shining then, what would you say your guys' favourite Stephen King film is?
Ooh.
I'm going to see to Markus first.
And obviously there's no wrong answers.
There is.
Maybe The Green Mile.
Very good choice. Very good choice. Yeah.
But it's tough because there's a lot of good ones.
And there's so, like you say, there's so many. I think, I kind of want to be it's the TV It.
Well, it's incredible.
It's so good,
elite level,
especially the first half. But it might be Misery, I think, for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kathy Bates in that.
Kathy Bates in that, yeah.
Incredible.
And James Caan, of course.
Yeah.
And James Caan, for sure. I think the two of them together, just, beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
It's not the new Pet Sematary.
Oh, so bad. I remember we went to see that in the cinema. Ooh. Yeah.
It did have that nice Hollywood glossy horror that you get every few years. Hollywood doesn't do a lot of horror. But you get some nice shiny ones, and that was a shiny one because I loved when he went through the woods up to the top. I really love the cinematics of that, but it definitely is not a great film overall.
No,
it can't even be saved by the fact that the cat's called Churches.
Churches. Churchill. Churches.
Shows you how well I was paying attention.
Clearly, right?
Yeah. I think be careful.
I think for me, in terms of film adaptation, Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Carrie, the original Carrie.
Yes.
Good stuff. And I think you got to say Misery, haven't you?
Yeah.
Green Mile, though, I think that's
I always forget about Green Mile.
I always want to call it 8 Mile, and that's not That's not the same.
A very different thing. But to be fair, a good film. Anyway, I mean, I like Eminem. I have no problems with it. Shocking revelation, I know.
Well, there we go, right?
Yeah. Stephen King, man. I'm just trying to remember like everything he's made, and I'm like, God, that boy's had a career. We always say it about like John Carpenter, and we said it about the other people we've talked about.
That guy.
Who was the other one?
Rob Bottin?
No.
Wes Craven?
Yes, thank you.
Wes Craven.
Yes.
Nice.
Sorry, I'm
glad Markus listens to our
podcast
today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, like the careers they have and like the legacy of work that they've created, like, is incredible. Yeah, I love that. So, other than the adaptations, then, have you guys seen or have any thoughts on Doctor Sleep, the sequel?
I thought it was a great film, and that's pretty much all I can say, really.
Yeah,
I liked it. I thought, like, if you kind of separated the two and didn't try and like stitch them together in like a really neat and tidy way, I thought it was a great film. Like, I loved Ewan McGregor. Every day he could stand there and read a phone book and I'd be like, this is the best. But I really liked it, and I really liked a lot of the elements, and I definitely thought like it was, again, hugely atmospheric. Really, some really horrible, creepy scenes, and definitely like far removed from The Shining. Like there was a lot more, like, it kind of just felt like it was like so much more action packed, like, than The Shining.
Well, I would say it also had a lot more sort of grounded human drama.
Yeah.
With, for example, a lot of the scenes of, Ewan McGregor as Danny trying to get his life back together.
Yes.
There's a lot of moments in those scenes where it just shattered my heart, and I loved those bits.
Yeah, there's a lot of like you say, there's definitely like so much groundedness to see this guy who as a child went through like these horrific like events with his family, and then obviously has this sort of like power, and how he's had to just try and live like a normal life, and how it's affected him with his like relationships and like mentally and all the other stuff. And yeah, it's a really good film. I think he got a bit of a bad rap for being like a bad sequel, but I think if you seek it out just to enjoy it as like its own thing, I think you'll have a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah. This has been our advert for Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, clearly, right?
And every other Stephen King thing that's not The Shining.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the whole work of Stephen King and everything ever. Okay, so we kind of said it a little bit before when we said about how famous it has become. I think it's become a film like Jaws and Psycho, where it's so iconic between the axe scene and the all work and no play scenes. Do you think the film can live up to that hype?
I mean, that would vary from person to person. I mean, it certainly did for me the first time I saw it years ago, but it's hard to give a blanket statement about it.
What do you think?
I think that's really fair. I think we do often talk, I know that we spoke about it in our most recent one about the legacy of the film overtaking the film itself, because we recently spoke about Blair Witch and what that did for horror cinema versus the actual film itself. And I think you can definitely argue something similar with The Shining. I know Markus mentioned initially kind of the atmosphere. You've got those really standout scenes in the atmosphere. A lot of that was down to kind of the use of Steadicam footage and the use of how it was filmed, and a lot of these kind of pioneering techniques
definitely
that really create a sense of ambience that is if you haven't seen The Shining, you still know the carpet, you still know the axe, the bit with the "here's Johnny." People still say all work and no play. People say those things, and it's again like the Psycho knife and the Jaws music when you're in the ocean, and it's kind of got
I loved
that legacy.
your shark then.
You're so welcome with my hand action. It's got that kind of legacy that outstrips the film, I would argue. But I do think Marcus is right. I think if you ask somebody else, they might say, oh, no way the film is, head and shoulders above any of that kind of thing. Depends on what you're interested in and how you look at it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it definitely will relate to people differently, and like people will get different interpretations and different opinions on it from like you say, what they're interested in and what their thoughts are and stuff. I think it's one of those things where you can all kind of like relate to the process of that madness, like especially now that we've been in lockdown for like a year. Like you can kind of appreciate like where that's coming from. And also what I really like is the scenes with Danny where you do get that sense of like there's an excitement to go into a hotel when you're a kid. Like I remember going to like the first hotel I ever stayed in and being like, this is so exciting because this isn't my house, but it's like a house. And like honestly, like I have a memory of just like going to an ice machine in my socks in the corridor, and I was like, this is crazy. I'm living a crazy life. And honestly, it's like the tiniest thing, but I was like, this is amazing. And like to live in this hotel, this huge hotel as well. I mean, the size of that place was incredible. And they're like, as a small child, alone, no siblings, your dad's off being, a drunk, your mum's off having a cry, you're just left to, by yourself with these creepy twins. It almost is like the imagination of this child that we're following on with. And I think I love the scenes and the atmosphere for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of what can add to that as well was that they didn't tell Danny Lloyd, the little cutie, and I never say that about kids, but he's very cute. Who plays Danny? They didn't tell him it was a horror film. They just were like, "Go on, ride your trike, chat with those two weirdly dressed people." And I think that kind of innocence that you get from Danny in the film it's palpable. It is that excitement. It's just, and I think in to what you said about the hotel, I texted you this earlier, but I think we can all agree after a year in lockdown, he dealt with it terribly. It was a few months, Jack. We've been doing this for a year and we're all doing a lot better than you. But I think that, I mean, we will probably come on to it later, but the characterization of Jack in the film compared to the book is vastly different to the detriment of the film. So
okay. So no, we can launch into it now. Tell us a little bit why, sort of what the key differences are.
So
like I rolled his sleeves up ready.
I know, I'm so ready.
He's ready to throw hands. What's happening?
I don't want to sound like a hater, but I am. So, I
hate away.
Hate away, right?
Do it.
Initially, this is one of my favorite little random things because these actors are incredibly synonymous with the film. Different names that were bandied about for Jack Torrance's character were Robin Williams.
What?
Yeah. Robert De Niro.
Okay, yeah.
Of course.
And Harrison Ford. Right? And
how old would Harrison Ford have been?
This came out in 1980, so
it was around Indiana Jones time, right? So he would have been what, mid-30s?
Not long after Star Wars.
Mid to late 30s, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just considered he would be much younger than the other three, but maybe not.
And Stephen King
maybe he just looks like, better.
To be fair, was like, nah, through all of them. Like, he didn't initially like Jack Nicholson's casting because when you read the book, you like Jack Torrance at the start. He's a likable character. He's sympathetic.
Okay.
And I think like's probably a strong word, but he's a lot more sympathetically represented in the book, I would argue, than he is in the film.
Okay.
And Stephen King said that he didn't want Jack Nicholson cast because when you see Jack Nicholson, inherently you predict as an audience a descent into madness. You know, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the Joker.
Eyebrows.
It's the eyebrows, man. So he thought that in casting Jack Nicholson, he was already pretty sinister to start with, and you'd have this preconceived idea going into the film that, oh, he's gonna go bananas, and that's what's gonna happen. So he wanted a bit more of a kind of blank slate. I think John Voight was who he suggested, who I had to look up. Sorry, John Voight.
Who is John Voight? Yeah,
I don't know. I can't remember. It didn't really leave much of an impression. And
sorry.
And I think that he's very, at the start, he wants to do what's best for his family, and he's clear. There are the elements of how he has been abusive as a result of his alcoholism and issues. And there was a lot of kind of autobiography from Stephen King's point of view in this, because he suffered with alcoholism. And I think in the film, from the start, he's a bastard. And you don't have that kind of sympathetic element played. And I'm not going to spoil the end of the film or the book, because it's very, very different in both. I think that speaks volumes to the characterization of Jack Torrance in both, the way that the book and film end separately. But I'm not going to spoil it. If you want to look at it, go on Wikipedia and you'll know what I mean. But I don't want to ruin it for anyone who's not read the book or anything. But yes, that was my calm version of events.
No, that was good. I mean, like I say, I haven't read it, so that like summed it up really well for me. That's really interesting how different you feel like that character was played, because he's such a key pivotal character. It's not like, you know, you're just swapping out one storyline for another. Like, you're essentially sort of replacing a central character.
Well, this is it. So Stephen King himself, because there is a lot of him in the character of Jack Torrance, was like, I felt a bit disappointed that the kind of struggles with the alcoholism and with like the depression and the issues and addiction with that was not downplayed in the film, but it was certainly not as pointed an inclusion, for example, as it is in the book. So yeah. I'm gonna cede the floor and let somebody else talk now.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, Markus?
Well, of course, I don't have the, knowledge of the book in the same way that Georgie has, so I can't speak to it as an adaptation. But if you squarely look at it as a man already barely holding it together, just snapping, it's a very engaging, intense performance.
Oh, intense is definitely a good word.
It's the kind of intensity that you could only get from Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Like, I think the performances for me are what really sort of like solidifies this on this list of a classic. Like, as painful as Shelley Duvall's like experience may have like been, which translates through for me in like a big way, you can see that is not just like an actress playing a woman on the edge. Like, that is a woman on the edge. And I think, especially looking back now, and there's so many documentaries and it's documented so like intensely that she had a really bad time, that you can see that, I think. And I am 100% sure that Georgie has more to tell us upon this fact, because she's got the angry Italian hands ready to go.
But the thing is, for me on this, and then I'll stop and simmer down for a second. Obviously, the treatment of Shelley Duvall on set was horrific. And even Jack Nicholson will lose his shit at Stanley Kubrick. And no one ever mentions that, do they? No, it's always just Shelley Duvall. I think the way she was treated was awful. I remember Stephen King watching the film. Like, I sound like his fucking biggest fan. Well, I mean, Stephen,
you are.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But I think that one of the most poignant things that he said about the adaptation was, that's not the woman I wrote about.
Right.
Because in the book, there's no hysteria. There's no collapsing.
She's sort of like a really confident blonde, right?
Yeah.
In the book.
She's like level-headed. She's cool. She keeps her calm. Her relationship with Jack is fraught, but it's built upon they both kind of got really shitty relationships with their parents. And she's a self-reliant, independent woman, and she never goes to pieces. And while I'm not for a second suggesting that if you're writing a woman, she has to be like a strong woman. Women are allowed to cry. Women are allowed to have emotion. I think the fact that character that was already created in the novel as this kind of reliant woman who keeps her head, who keeps cool, even at the height of everything that's going on, was completely scrapped for the screaming and the hysteria, and then coupled with knowing how that performance was begotten by the way Stanley Kubrick treated Shelley Duvall. Nah, fam. You know, that's my opinion. Marcus, what do you think of Shelley Duvall and Wendy Torrance?
Well, I think it's a good performance. Like you said, a lot of the trauma she suffered at the hands of Stanley Kubrick on set does come through. And while I don't condone any of the actions of that asshole, I do think it still kind of makes for a really strong performance that is easy to sympathize with throughout the entire time.
Yeah, I definitely, like, whenever I'm watching it, I'm like, come on, girl, like, we'll get you through this. We'll all club together. Get out of there. Yeah, definitely. It's just like, it's crazy, like the shit that like he put her through. And like there was a point I was reading something earlier about where he basically told everybody, like all of the crew, to either like not even really speak to her, or to just be like, none of them will help you, so just don't talk to them. I mean, that's awful. It's awful. I feel so bad for her. And I sort of feel like, yes, that performance is like groundbreaking, but it shouldn't had to have come as a result of all this other stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, like 100%. We do not condone this kind of bullying or gaslighting. And I think what is interesting is how much these characters were adapted to kind of fit a different agenda. Like, I kind of feel like The Shining is almost like a Stephen King light. Like, it's almost like you're getting like a bit of his atmosphere and his concepts and his world building, but you're getting someone else's idea of that rather than Stephen King's idea of that. Like, what do you guys think? Would you say is a fair assessment, or?
No, that makes a lot of sense, because so much of the movie is just pure Kubrick being Kubrick, with some limitations based on it being an adaptation rather than an original concept.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I feel like it's very like Kubrick does King, and it's very. There's the part where the Overlook in Kubrick's version is heavily implied. I can't remember if it's actually outright said, or it's just heavily implied that it's built on a Native American burial ground. There's nowhere in the novel.
It was just very briefly mentioned in the movie.
Is mentioned,
just in passing.
Yeah, and it's nowhere in the book. It's Kubrick played a lot of the supernatural, one of them, supernatural elements down. And I think, this is going to sound, I'm going to get shit for this. It just felt like he didn't want to write a horror film, so wrote something else instead, using the bare bones of what he was given, I think.
So, would you consider anything that Kubrick has made to be a horror film?
Marcus, go first. I'm going to IMDb.
I've barely even seen anything from his filmography.
So you've got things like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Clockwork Orange.
I know what he's made.
Full Metal Jacket.
I think he has elements of horror in his movies, but nothing outright horror.
I would agree.
Like Full Metal Jacket, you have the intense drill instructor who, horrifying, but not horror. Clockwork Orange, like that's really intense and horrific, but not horror. I don't think really that's Kubrick.
I agree. I think that for me is why, but you would consider Stephen King to be a horror novelist.
Primarily, yes.
Which I think for me is why I find this mixture of like source material and director to be such an odd mixture. And I definitely would be interested to see how a different horror, maybe more horror centric director, what their take would have been.
Yeah,
this is it. I didn't. Yeah, because he was offered. I didn't realize that he was offered The Exorcist, right? Or
was he?
Maybe.
Apparently, I just found that out.
That would have been bananas.
It was right. Yeah, so Warner Bros. Originally wanted Stanley Kubrick to direct the movie. Another film, another book he can ruin. To be fair, Clockwork Orange, in terms of adaptation, I think is a better adaptation of the book. Partly because the book is incredibly difficult to read.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you nailed it completely. That there's horror elements to a lot of what Kubrick's done, but it's not outright horror.
No,
it's not cut and dry horror.
He's hard to put in a box because I think
I can think of several boxes I put
in.
He is weird and he is asshole.
Yeah, overinflated ego box. Yeah, Stanley.
Okay, I don't know where I would put his films in boxes, because they definitely have like a mixture of these elements. Like Markus said, like for me, the most horror-y I would consider would be like Clockwork Orange, but I wouldn't put it as a horror film. Like we wouldn't consider it for this series.
No. At most, I might. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
But with Clockwork Orange, at most I might stretch that to like psychological thriller, but not horror.
Yes, yeah, for sure. That's pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. Like it's definitely full of these horror elements. Like you have like a home invasion, you have
people drinking milk.
People drinking milk. I mean, to be fair, like, I'm not even ashamed to be like, I will happily have like some milk. That is fine. Better get them good bones. There's like so much violence and there's like conversion therapies and stuff and all sorts of stuff is going on. So
and statues of penises.
Yes.
The horror. Truly the horror. Yeah.
So yeah, that for me would definitely be the most horror centric, but he's definitely more of like a mixed genre director, I think.
Yeah. The psychological undertones. I mean, I would even stretch to say psychological thriller for The Shining as well.
Yeah,
it's definitely.
But then you also get that last act with Jack chasing Wendy and Danny around, and then it turns into more of a traditional slasher.
Yes. Yeah.
Or comedy with like the Betty Hill theme tune playing. But
yeah, I mean, but yeah, you're definitely right. And there's also like the supernatural elements, especially for Danny. So again, it's that sort of mishmash of genres, all sort of like put in a big blender or into a cocktail shaker, if you would like. Yeah, I personally love the Overlook Hotel as a set piece.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of my favorite big movie set pieces.
Oh yeah.
Like I love the name. I love its maze. Or in his book, are they little hedgerow animals, I believe?
Yeah, they're little topiary animals that kind of come alive. But it was too hard to do for effects. They just put a maze in.
And I don't love the idea that they come alive. I like a hedge elephant. It's fine. Yeah. And I like the ballroom and all. I think like that imagery of like the corridors and the bathroom. Love that.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah, I feel like we've been very critical, so that leads me on to a positive point, if I have to. What is one of the most kind of instantly stylistically iconic films that we've spoken about? So is there a particular shot or a particular sequence or scene that stands out for you as being just chef's kiss cinema? Because young, think of a few.
I mean, it's hard to beat the part with Danny going on his tricycle throughout the hotel. Especially since I'm just imagining Kubrick sitting with a camera on a tricycle behind him.
Yeah. Like he's getting pulled on a little sled behind him. He's like, come on, Danny, hurry up.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shot is, it's iconic and it looks amazing. And yeah,
I don't
know what else to say.
Yeah, that is just like next level, isn't it? Immediately recognizable, as soon as you see it, Yeah, for sure.
I think mine's possibly the ballroom scene with the pie, with the or the twins. I mean, they are grim.
They are, to be fair. That is very legit.
There are so many that, like you said, like you could screenshot that film. I would wager at any moment, minute by minute, and I bet you could have people guess which film it was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like that, like you said, the carpet alone is everywhere. You can get it as like doormats. You can get it as like clothes, shoes, posters, key rings, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's so
my cousin-in-law
iconic.
has a tattoo of it on her arm.
Perfect.
Shout out to Rach.
Nice. But Rach, you got bad taste in films.
We've actually done a podcast on this of us arguing about this. But this is it, and I think for me, it's got to be the bit when the wave of blood comes around the corner.
Yes.
So good. And I think in the bathrooms, because those bathrooms are
stunning. Bathrooms, right? I love the bathrooms. I also really like that Hannibal recreated one of the bathrooms.
Yeah?
For one of the kill scenes in the TV show Hannibal, they built their bathroom.
That's cool.
It's a little homage.
But I think you're right. You could screenshot any minute of that, and shout out to our buddies Let's Jaws for a Minute, Jaws podcast with previous guest Sarah Buttery, that they go through Jaws minute by minute. You could do that with this film, easy as pie, and that's just testament to how well the atmosphere is cultivated, I think. Which annoyingly he gets big points for, because he does do that very, very, very well, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think you get that like feeling of such a big empty space where, especially with Jack's writing block, like that sequence, I think is just so like tangible. Like you feel the frustration, his feelings of like isolation, his struggles with like his alcoholism, and like his frustration with his not being able to write, his family, his situation, and everything. Like it definitely feels so tangible, and it's literally like a pot like about to boil over. Like Jack Nicholson, like he might be a mad lad, but like that performance is so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's not the most versatile of actors, but that one or two styles that he can do, he does better than anyone.
Yeah. I would definitely be, like I said it earlier, like Misery, I could never recast. Like I feel like Jack Nicholson, like he may not have been the perfect choice, but for that kind of madness, he's the perfect choice. Yeah.
I think that's exactly
Which is
it.
especially interesting because he got nominated for Worst Actor at the Razzies for that movie, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it's banana, isn't it? And it's like you said though, the range isn't there, but goddamn, is it straight for a bullseye every single time when he does it, And
it's like find your niche and just excel at it. Like you go, Jack Nicholson, you found your niche.
You found your niche.
Eyebrows.
Yes, yeah. His eyebrow game is very strong, to be fair. Yeah. I think something that's interesting is with the in the book. I'm not sorry. That was a lie. I'm not sorry. The hotel is much more of a character than it is in the film. Like the hotel is another character, and the role that the hotel plays in Jack's demise is far larger. Because in the novel you have a literal dialogue between Jack and voices that he hears in the hotel. It's far more supernatural, and I miss that because I like spooky ghost things. I do miss that a little bit.
I definitely get.
Also,
go on.
I'm just going to rant about how cardinal rule of horror: 2 hours and how many minutes? Too long.
It is long.
I'm sorry. But
no, go ahead.
Georgie did mention that up top at the start that she thought it was too long, and in most versions, like the original theatrical, it's around 2 hours 25. But if you watch the old European cut, it's not even 2 hours.
Wow.
That's the version I have on DVD.
Yeah. They with the theatrical releases.
Kubrick made that version himself and said it's just as valid, if not even more so.
Yeah.
The original Snyder cut, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, for real, right? Because he would cut, I think with every release that came out, they cut like 20 minutes off of it, and it did get shorter and shorter. And it's been that long. Like I've watched lots of versions of it. And
God, I wouldn't even know which version I'd watched.
Check the runtime.
I'm honestly gonna have a look, like at the version that I have.
I mean, for this is basically just 2 versions
in my little digital.
It's not like Blade Runner, which has like 5.
Yeah, which is so. I'm such a hypocrite because I'm like, yes, Blade Runner, cinematic masterpiece, needs every one of those 5 versions because it's perfect. I think it's just because I like the film.
Yeah, I would like to see like a longer Silence of the Lambs. Just me. That's because I love it.
Yeah.
There was some extra outside stuff in the 4K cut that was exciting.
Yeah, in the European cut, I think they cut some of the exterior shots, I believe. There's less of the exterior shots, I think, in the European cut.
Less exterior shots, less exposition, less of the stuff that people called goofy in the original cut, I believe.
Yeah.
I've got mine ringing in at 2 hours 23 minutes.
Yeah, that's the original theatrical, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know why, it's just this whole conversation has just reminded me of that 30 Seconds to Mars video. Do you remember?
Kill?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was like a basic goal, like shot for shot, that was just 30 Seconds to Mars in the Overlook trying to write their album. What a great music video. Loved it.
Yes, it was. Do you remember? And he had the hair and then he has him up against the wall.
Yes.
That's a really good music video.
That was back way before Jared Leto became No, I'm not even going to take that. He was always a cult leader. It was just before anyone really realised, because I saw them in concert and I had a really creepy conversation in the line with someone else who'd followed them all the way through America. That's another conversation for another time.
It's not, because I saw them in concert and I remember him making people go up on stage, join hands and start a prayer.
Wow.
Yeah. But the point stands, he was really hot in that video. So
yeah, he was. I think that just feeds back into what we said about how influential it has been on like cinema and so many things afterwards, and like it's just now there's so many pop culture references about it. Like, I would definitely wager that I saw this Simpsons episode that was based on it, like, before I saw the film. So I can't even talk about The Shining now without referring to it as The Shinning. Like, they're one-on-one now.
Yeah. I was going to say Markus needs to have the moment where he talks about that Simpsons episode, because I saw you tweet about it earlier. I was like, yes.
Yeah. It has one of my favorite, that episode has one of my favorite sort of throwaway gags. Bart's just talking to groundskeeper Willie. Willie's like, oh, you read my mind. You have The Shinning. And Bart's like, you mean Shining. Shh, you want to get sued?
It's so good.
It's so dumb, but I love it.
Yeah. I like that because he's like, between 8 and 9 is Willie's time. I'll always be like, what? And then I'll be like, oh, I see.
No TV and no beer makes Homer go crazy.
Yeah. This is it. It's such a pervasive film in terms of everything that it's done. Here's Johnny. I mean, oh my God, how many times has that been done? Yeah. And the all X and no Y makes Z something. That kind of formula, which I think is it's always funny. I don't care. I always like it.
I love it. I think as well that like it shares that kind of concept with like if you had to go and like stay in this creepy place for one night and you'd get like £1 million, would you go and do it? Like It reminds me of that kind of stuff as well. And I'm always like, yeah, I definitely would stay in this creepy old hotel for a week for like £100.
Okay, it went from a night to a week.
I know, and I also went from £1 million to £100.
So
I just want a holiday, George.
A little depiction of your moral compass there, I think. You two were both super eager to do that. If you had to stay in the Overlook Hotel for, let's call it, lockdowns coloured our perceptions here. Yeah. A definitely haunted hotel.
Okay.
For 3 months.
Okay.
3 months, definitely haunted. 100% haunted.
Okay.
Because I can't just say stay inside for 3 months because we're all pros at that now. Would you do it for 3 months wages of, so let's say, pick an arbitrary number. I'm not going to give you $1 million.
Oh, $1 million.
Cheapskate.
I know, sorry, even guys. In her imaginary scenario, she's not giving us $1 million.
Okay,
all right, okay.
10K.
No.
Nah.
Not for 10K.
I'd do it for like time.
I'd do it for 25.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What would be your cut-off, Marcus? What would be the minimum you would accept to stay in a haunted hotel for 3 months?
3 months.
Is there Wi-Fi?
Haunted Wi-Fi.
Haunted Wi-Fi,
yeah. It keeps cutting in and out.
Like
you only get jump scare videos on YouTube.
Oh my God, no. Is there a good supply of books?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a pool?
Am I TripAdvisor? No.
Will I be able to get a haunted sandwich?
I was going to say, right?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do it. I think it's because stuff like ghosts and demons, they scare me anyway. Mm-hmm. So that kind of isolation coupled with no, not for me. I'm mentally weak to that kind of thing. It's like my Pokemon weakness is ghost type.
Oh, yeah. I see. Okay.
Well, Heather and I can drag you along.
Yeah. Clearly,
we'll do it as a little trio. I think we'd be fine.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I'll grab the legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
any ghosts that come along will be like, piss off, ghost. They're solid.
Yeah, I will be crying in the corner the entire time.
We just only embody some Korg energy and we'll be laughing.
Yeah, piss off, ghost.
Piss off, ghost.
My king.
Yeah, we'll have like parties in the ballroom. We'll have
with all the ghosts.
We'll just make friends with him, but like Casper.
Spooky tango.
Yeah, it'd be so good. It'd be like this one taught me how to waltz. Be like
a dance macabre, if you will.
Ooh,
we will.
Classy.
Yeah.
What can I say?
It's so good. And then we'll have like dinner in the big dining hall and we'll sit at different seats every night. It'll be a friggin' hoot. We'll get tricycles to ride around the halls.
Just don't use the bathrooms. It'll be okay.
At least one will not be haunted. So
another pet peeve. Speaking of bathrooms, why would you change the room number?
Ooh, now. This kind of does make sense, though. Because hotels are built without the number 13.
Yeah.
Quite often, houses and blocks of flats are also built without a 13.
Without the number 13. Yeah.
Because they're still very superstitious. And it's mainly flats. I don't know about houses. But I was reading that the hotel didn't want anybody to be put off. So they put it as the hotel that they actually used for some of the exterior scenes was a real hotel. And they were worried that if people went there, they wouldn't want to stay in the room. So they put it as 237 because they didn't have a 237.
Don't like it. Make it 217. Nope.
Although, if you were like, had any sense about you, you'd know that it wasn't real. So you'd be like, "Oh, I'll stay in the shining room. That's a fun experience."
The room, right?
Yeah.
We said this with Blair Witch. It's like yesterday, no, last week. Like they changed the forest. The film, the second or third, the third is the sequel.
The sequels are technically the third. Yeah.
Yeah, it's filmed in like Canada compared to Maryland. Yeah. Why change it? Why?
Yeah, because
Canada is cheaper.
This is true, actually. It's cheaper to film in Canada, isn't it? That's a very valid point.
And everybody's friendlier.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry there for haunting you.
Yeah.
Yes. No offense, Maryland, but the Canadians have got you beat on your politeness.
The Blair Witch was like, my bad.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would definitely stay in the Overlook for like 25 grand. Yeah. Like, I feel okay with that. Like, that'd be fine.
I don't know, man.
Like, I wouldn't stay in an old abandoned mental asylum. I wouldn't even go in one.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, sorry. This has freaked me out too much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, wouldn't be a fan. No.
Yeah.
Thinking now, but also I'm also just thinking about like Clue, and like like what's the other one? The Vincent Price one, where he brings everybody to dinner, and he's got like his wife, and they're all like. I didn't imagine this film. Hang on.
The Haunting.
Yeah, The Haunting. I think that's what I'm thinking of. Like, we're inviting everybody to go on a nice holiday, and they're going to be like...
Food and drink and ghosts. One of our stickers.
Yes, that's totally right, yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
And my dad maintains this very day, this is my, 6'4" football hooligan dad, that The Haunting was the only horror film that's ever scared him. Because I think he watched it when he was, way too young, and it just scarred him for life.
No, maybe it wasn't The Haunting then. The Haunting is the one that's actually Hill House.
Yeah, there's an original black and white version, isn't there? This
is so off topic, and I know we use every week, but you guys carry on. I'm just going to try and find this film.
While Heather's busy, I do have a question for you, Georgie, regarding the book and adaptation and that.
Mm-hmm.
Halloran. Is there any difference between book and movie in that regard?
In which regard, sorry?
The character of Halloran.
I think in the book, the more interested sounds terrible. I feel like in the film they're a bit dismissive of Danny, but in the book they're kind of more interested in Danny, in his kind of abilities. But I'm trying to think now.
House on Haunted Hill.
They're all the same.
So I knew it was like a house on a hill and it was haunted, but it was like the Hill House. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I think that the way, to be fair, Halloran probably a character I had the least issue with in terms of differences between adaptations, because I don't want to say it's negligible, but the differences are I can see why that would be the case. I can see why that choice was made, and they're not super vast compared to other characters where I think it really jumps out. I think anyway, people might correct me on that one, but I don't think it's as bad, to be honest. There's more consistency there, I believe, I think. Because there's the other guy, is it, what's his name? The interviewer, Ullison. I keep wanting to say Utterson, but that's Jekyll and Hyde. What's his name? I'm going to have to look now. What's his name? Guys, talk amongst yourselves.
Which character are we even talking about? I've lost track.
The guy interviews Jack.
I know which one you mean, but I don't know the name.
Where are you? I'll get there, don't you worry. Ullman. Stuart Ullman.
Oh yeah, isn't he like the boss of it all? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because are we meant to think that he's really like pompous and arrogant and like Jack's not supposed to really get on with him and Jack's quite pally with him in this one?
Yeah, so in the book he's a complete asshole. Like he's just not a good person. But I think he's used as a bit of a vehicle for exposition in the film. As opposed to being like just an ass. Do you know what I mean? Like an unlikable kind of guy.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think.
I
would recommend you guys read the book, though. It's not as big as it, and it is better at the end, because if you stop reading it after the first 3 quarters, great book. Last quarter, dog shit.
Yeah, it is a very strange one. Strange. Very
but
strange.
I think, book-wise, The Shining consistently hits the beats all the way through and keeps you going. And again, speaking of like its cultural impact, I can't believe I'm going to say this like an absolute basic Fiat 500 gal. The episode of Friends, when Joey is reading The Shining and he gets too scared of The Shining, so he has to put it in the freezer. That like it's a scary book. It is a scary book. But I think consistently it does hit the beats and it doesn't lag. Whereas I think in the middle of the film, when you're kind of at the middle point and toward the end, I personally feel there is a bit of lag in the pacing in the movie.
Okay.
That might just be me being kind of having a shit attention span, to be fair. Distinct possibility.
Yeah. Fair enough. I would definitely say that I have covered all the things we were going to talk about. I think a generally positive view of The Shining from all of us today. Not the best adaptation, but a classic that has earned its place nonetheless. Definitely read some Stephen King. We'll drop some recs in the little comment box so you can see what Georgie recommends and where to get from. And yeah, let us know what your thoughts and opinions are on The Shining. Always interested to know. Do you guys have any lasting points you want to leave us on this evening?
Not really. I think we've covered most bases here.
Yep. Yeah, I think my parting words would be Stanley Kubrick fans, don't bother coming for me. And I think, while I have my issues with the film, I think a very valid lesson on the nature of writer's block and burnout can be taken, and that all work and no play will make you a dull boy.
Yes,
so
that's very true.
Make sure you take breaks and you rest up. Otherwise, look what happened to him.
I think that's a great way to end it. Definitely on a real positive. If you don't take anything else from The Shining, take that you care. You need to take care of you. There we go. You matter. That's what I was trying to say. I think I've got like too much sun of going all flutter.
I know, right?
Crazy. Thank you, Markus, for joining us and lending us your shining wisdoms and opinions.
For having me. I've had a blast.
Good. Yeah, it's good to chat with you.
It's been nice to see you. We haven't hung out on Zoom since, I think, late last year, was it, when we did the little...
End of last year when you had that hangout.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It seems like 5 years ago.
It does, right?
Feels like it.
Yeah.
Where can the folks at home catch up with you and what you're up to?
Well, there's always my Twitter account at the Marco Guy, TheMarckoGuy, where I incessantly tweet about everything. Maybe too much, but whatever. Same handle on Instagram as well, if people want to see me post pictures of my dog and other random things I see.
To be fair, your dog is incredibly cute. And you tweet the perfect amount as well. I'll have none of that slander. No.
For sure. Cool. We'll pop all the links in the box as per usual, so everybody can find them nice and easy peasy. And we will be back next week, potentially, with either The Omen or The Exorcist.
Yes.
Speaking
of Kubrick.
Yeah. We're actually going to be wrapping up this season fairly soon. So these last 2 episodes, The Omen and The Exorcist, will be the last 2 for the horror classics in conversation. We'll be taking a month-long break because we are tired. We got to rest our vocal cords for the next season, which will be coming out after a month. I don't know when that is right now, but probably May.
Yes.
No. June. Beginning of June.
How does time work?
How does time work?
Anymore.
We're already in April, so we'll have 2 more, couple of weeks, and then we'll be back, likelihood, beginning of June, with a fresh new season and some wonderful, wonderful guests. Yeah. So take our message of this week. Look after yourselves.
And don't axe murder your family.
Yes.
Don't
do that.
The other important lesson as well, obviously.
Yes. No axing. Yes to breaks. And yes to hydration.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Bye for now.
Good night.
Ciao.